The former host of the program you're currently watching is getting back into politics. Eliot Spitzer is running for New York City's comptroller 5 years after he resigned as the state's governor for a somewhat documented scandal that involved prostitution. Now, these types of tabloid tales used to kill political careers. Now they seem to offer more along the lines of extended vacations. Of course, as you know, Anthony Weiner is running for New York mayor after his online adventures of basically creepy male behavior with no actual sex forced him from office. And Mark Sanford, that hopeless romantic, is in Congress after he was caught seeing some peaks outside of his marriage that were not on the Appalachian Trail. So are we a more forgiving country these days? Well, let's ask the best panel in Deep Cable. Basil Smikle is a Democratic strategist, Tina Dupuy is a political consultant, and Rick Unger is a Forbes.com contributor, and they're all smarter and more brilliant than me. Welcome to the show. First off, what do you guys think of Governor Spitzer's chances in this race? Basil?
I actually think he's got a good shot at winning. His opponent, Scott Stringer, the Manhattan Borough president, has sort of existed a bit under the radar.
Very well liked in New York politics.
Very well liked, Manhattan-based candidate, so it remains to be seen what kind of impression he's really made in the outer boroughs. But Eliot's got this name recognition, and frankly, I think voters would actually vote for him for this seat. If it was mayor or governor again, I'm not so sure.
I agree.
But for controller, I think they would support him in this seat.
Tina, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think on the lower names on the ballot, name recognition is king, and so yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Unger.
I'm going to be contrary. You know, I don't think he'll do that well, not because of the scandal. It has nothing to do with it. People forget that when he was governor, before the scandal broke, he was truly disliked in the city of New York. And I don't think
Attorney General?
No, as governor.
Okay.
If you look at his ratings when he was governor, he wasn't doing so bad in some of the outstate areas. They hated him in this city. And I think that's what will be remembered. Not the scandal, but people don't like him in this city.
He was respected in many quarters for taking on Wall Street as ferociously as he did, and was proven right in many areas. And I'd be saying that even if I didn't have his name on my mug. I mean, there is a certain level of popularity, and I would dare say a certain level of New Yorkers who are kind of turned off to how he was driven from office. They used the Patriot Act to get him. I mean, it was like what they did with Bill Clinton, they did to Eliot.
It was interesting because I don't know.
Used the Mann Act, which was even more egregious.
Exactly.
I mean, that was,
But it won't be the scandal. That will be his problem. It really won't.
Well, hopefully, if yes, he seemed a bit prescient on the Wall Street, on going after Wall Street. And if we think that Wall Street has changed a little bit, maybe Eliot has too. But you're right, he didn't have a lot of friends coming out of his seat, which is why he's still.
I don't think he'd be bad at the job, by the way.
Yeah,
Well, I don't think so either.
great.
I also think he's going to have the fundraising, and he's much more popular among the Democratic New York establishment than our friend Anthony Weiner. Now, the governor is coming back from a prostitution scandal, much like David Vitter, who was reelected by the good conservative folks of Louisiana in 2010. Basil, you are a former advisor to Mr. Weiner, full disclosure, and I've worked with Mr. Spitzer very deeply for a long time. In a 24/7 news cycle, are we to just be numb to scandals? Is it that everything just becomes old after a few months, or does it have to be money to have you driven out of the field?
I think substance matters most. Then comes money. But I do believe that we're becoming a little desensitized. The 24-hour news cycle, people are putting everything about themselves, pictures of, going back to Weiner, pictures of their body, they're putting their personal lives all over Facebook and Twitter. So we are a little desensitized to it. But frankly, when you talk about voters in New York, they really do want substance more than anything else. So we'll get past the scandal after a couple of days and maybe a week or two, start talking about some real issues. But the reality is we are a bit desensitized. And that's actually a little unfortunate, but it's the truth.
They want toughness, too, in New York, do they not? And both Mr. Spitzer and Weiner fit that bill?
right. Well, I don't think that the Weiner story has to do with sex. Obviously, there's no sex involved. I think he was a man who was isolated in the Congress. He had few friends, and then he went on television with his final couple of friends in the media to lie his butt off.
Indeed.
So then he really had no friends and no one who wanted to talk to him. I think that's the bigger story here. It has very little to do with like his weird Twitter thing was just bizarre, in the fact that he made Breitbart he kind of elevated Breitbart by this scandal. I mean, there's so many different things. I think it's a misnomer to call this a sex scandal, what Weiner did. I think
know,
this
it
is
was
like a politician imploding on himself.
It was a lack of sex, desperate for sex scandal. Rick, we're talking about all these politicians getting second chances, and there's also the politicians who just kind of got away with it. David Vitter. John Ensign left office when he chose to leave office. Is John Edwards still the third rail of American politics?
Yes, but here's what's different about John Edwards. I think scandals are so overrated when it comes to figuring out if people can run again for office. Scandals are all about the joy of tabloids. If you think a candidate is going to put money in your pocket or do something good for you, you're going to vote for them. Except for John Edwards. Why? It's not that he cheated on his wife. It's that he cheated on his wife as she was dying.
Right.
That you don't come back from.
Right.
But he also misused funds. I mean, that's why he went. He was not.
Forgive that.
Well, we'll
he
forgive
misused the
that.
money.
Like that was not the crime that he committed.
We'll forgive that.
And
you're
there was
Republican.
a sex tape. I mean, there were so many
We'll
more
forgive
things.
all that.
with
Oh
that.
yeah, would
Don't cheat on
Republicans
your dying
would
wife.
Republicans forgive gay sex scandals? Talking about Foley, or talking about our friend in Minnesota?
You know,
Larry Craig.
we don't know because we'd have to see if either of them chose to run again. They've never put it to the test. So we
Okay.
really don't know. But we do know that Mark Sanford was reelected because there's only one thing worse than a Republican in his state that cheats, and that's a Democrat.
I realize that. I just like to say Republican gay sex scandal. Before we go to break, seems like a perfect time to check out today's social media question. Could a female politician recover from a sex scandal and run again, as so many male politicians have? Diane Hinman said on Facebook, no, because we live in the dark ages with a double standard for women. And really the highest profile female politician to have a sex scandal was Helen Chenoweth, who slammed President Clinton, then her own affair was revealed. But Tina, is there really a double standard? Could a high-profile female politician recover from a sex scandal as so many of these men seem to?
We don't have enough examples to have actual data on that. We just don't. I mean, we might be able to answer that in a couple of years when there are more women leaders, but right now there's not enough women to be able to answer that.
Helen Chenoweth had no problem getting reelected, and there's no reason to imagine it is a problem. If that female candidate is going to put money in my pocket, if that's what I believe,
I think you're right.
I'm voting for her, man.
I think it's who she's running against,
Yeah.
too. People circle the wagons.
Yes.
Okay, don't go away after a quick break so my panel guests can tweet Instagrams of their junk. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Viewpoint, or as Basil Smykel said, I need two cameras. We found out today. We found out.
No context.
Context the bosses won't like. We found out today that Rick Perry is capable of ending some things in his third term, like his governorship. Perry announced today that he won't run for another term as Texas governor. So will he be a force to reckon with in the presidential campaign of 2016? What does this mean for the GOP in Texas? There's also a third question, but I can't recall it, so let's get our panel's take. Basil Smykel is a Democratic strategist. Tina Dupuy is the editor-in-chief of thecontributor.com, and Rick Unger is a Forbes.com contributor. So what's next for Rick Perry? I'm thrilled about him running for president again. I think he's going to do it. I think he's run the smartest pre-campaign we've seen in recent memory. But does this mean he's going to take 3 years, Basil, to fundraise, or will he just go off and join a think tank like the Heritage Foundation?
The non-thinking think tank. I don't think he may go off and do something for a short period of time, but yeah, I think he's going to test the waters for the next couple of years. He's going to see if there's money out there to be raised. But you know, Rick Perry ran for all the anticipation in that campaign cycle. If you remember, the GOP was waiting for Rick Perry to come in, and then he falls flat. I've never seen anybody fall so flat so quickly. So, frankly, he's got so much ground to make up just to get his name back to the expectation from 2012.
But has he not been doing it? I mean, these abortion wars in Texas are solidifying his standing with the conservative base in the primary season, and I thought his whole Bring Your Business to Texas campaign was really smart. I don't know who paid for it, but it ran in major media markets, and it wasn't really about getting your business to Texas. It was about showing I'm a good governor for business.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if in case we forget, he was too liberal for the Republicans in 2012.
He didn't hate
that's
Mexicans
exactly. He didn't kill enough prisoners. So he was too friendly with immigrants. I mean, he really has had to double down and kind of kowtow to the right wing, and that's exactly what he's been doing this entire time.
Here's what we
He
know.
was too liberal.
Here's what we know about Rick Perry. He can put together a good campaign, as you suggest.
But
with
can he
what
put together
he's
a
been
good
doing.
sentence?
He can't exactly. He cannot be a good candidate. There is a big difference there, and I assure you, he will not be working at a think tank.
You know what? Maybe he's gotten a new pharmacist since the last campaign. But of course, we are 3 years away, and a recent poll of Texans showed they strongly preferred Ted Cruz, born in Canada, for president. Check this out, a partial listing of responses here. Rick Perry placed 7th among Texas Republicans after the very popular Someone Else Not Sure. I mean, take a look at this. How damaging was Rick Perry's 2012 presidential run? I could be really wrong about this.
You're not. It was terribly damaging. He came across as, well, a lot of things. One you just mentioned. Yeah, over-medicated, over liquid, over whatever. He just was a horrible, horrible candidate. He can put together a campaign. He can get money. But he can't be a good candidate. There's no getting around it.
Okay, Tina, the fact that he's announced he's not going to run for a 4th term in Texas, is this really good news for Wendy Davis, who is being hit on all sides by pleas to run for the governorship?
No.
You know, I think this is a great narrative story in the media. I think it's like a fantastic story and that we can all talk about, but I don't think that there's anything behind that.
She's not the next Ann Richards?
No, I don't think. I would love that to be true, but I just don't see it. But this is a state that, you know, could be blue in the next decade or so, and this could be the first time we see it.
You know, yes, she's not Cory Booker. Cory, executive of an important city in New Jersey, can attract a lot of funds and a lot of attention nationally and use that as a stepping stone. She got, the Senator Davis has, you know, that phenomenal opportunity that she had.
The filibuster.
The filibuster. Yes, I think she can use that. Yes, I think it's somewhat of a stepping stone, but we don't know really what her views within Texas are. We don't know how the voters of Texas really feel about her.
That's exactly
and
right.
Cory Booker was also born on the planet Krypton.
She's been terrific these past couple of weeks. We've all enjoyed what she's done, but you cannot become the first Democratic governor of Texas in a very long time on one issue, especially when that issue is abortion.
Especially when you're a national celebrity, because a lot of voters may actually hate you for that.
That's right.
Okay, well, speaking of powerful females that some people might hate, Liz Cheney, the daughter of former President Dick Cheney, is planning a run at Wyoming senator. The problem is her dad's friend, Uncle Mike Enzi, is already in the Senate for Wyoming and is quite popular and doesn't want to lose his job. Are we headed for a Senate showdown as civil war for the GOP? Tina?
Everything about this story upsets me. The fact that she just moved to Wyoming last year, the fact that like her
Hillary
dad,
Clinton, New York.
But her dad also didn't live in Wyoming. He kind of moved there. I mean, the fact that Wyoming has more senators than it has Congress people. You know, there's everything about this story kind of goes. You know, I makes you not like the Senate and really kind of have to relive what we all should be embarrassed by the Bush-Cheney years.
Rick?
She'll never beat Mike Enzi in a primary. You don't challenge Uncle Mike, and that's what he is Uncle Mike, particularly when the man has never cast a vote you can disagree with.
But so is her father giving her terrible advice, Basil? I mean, I'm sure she wouldn't have done this and made this petulant claim on the throne without her dad say so.
I agree. I think this father is pushing this issue, and you don't run against Uncle Mike. And Liz Cheney ain't no Hillary Clinton.
Amen.
She ain't no Hillary Clinton, and so let's be clear about that. So she's not the celebrity, even despite the fact that she's the daughter of Cheney, she's not the celebrity that Hillary was to be able to topple an incumbent. So.
But anyone who can go on Fox News and say that we weren't attacked by terrorists during George Bush's term and still be allowed to show their face in public has some mojo. You would admit that?
I admit that.
She has something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
We're not debating her lack of mojo, but I think this is just it's an excuse to get her on national television. I mean, it's like, you know, even if she doesn't, this is her on Sunday shows for the next couple of months.
She needs a project.
There you go. It's a vanity project.
I think Roger Ailes is going to keep her busy.
So let's
for the next
go after
years.
Uncle Mike.
Yeah, no, let's go back to Czechoslovakia.
I want to thank my panel, Basil Smykel, Tina Dupuy, and Rick Unger. And don't go away. I'll be back to talk about religious fundamentalism in all its forms right after this.